Okay, welcome to BackChat, powered by Paywise in season 2025. That's right. This man joins me. I don't usually do this, and we asked the same question. Well, I don't usually give the rap sheet before, but I do want to make mention that this man, I believe, is the last key backman to win a Brownlow medal. And we can talk about this during the interview, but I think that's significant. Brownlow medal, sure, maybe lots of Brownlow medalists, hundreds of them. Maybe not hundreds, but it's a pretty good effort. But last key backman, Ross Glendinning, Brownlow medalist, joins me. Hello, Roscoe.
Scully, how are you?
I'm excited, to be honest.
Well, remember I said to you I was nervous, so you've relaxed me already. That's a fair call, actually. I think it has been some time. Yeah, because there's been a couple of centre-half forwards.
Yeah.
But predominantly, post that, it's been midfield.
Yeah. There's been a backman, Wanganeen.
Yes, back pocket.
Yes.
It's been a bit of time up the ground, but yes.
Anyway, we'll get to that. I just wanted to make mention so people off the top know how dear this is to my heart. Like, this is proper.
I'm not wearing it, by the way.
Why not?
Well,
you usually do.
Yeah, but normally if I've got a button-up shirt, I wear it, then I can just sort of undo the button, a bit like the old school.
Yeah, have a look at this, ladies. Okay, so I want to ask you, Roscoe, off the top, your greatest sporting achievement, thanks to TABtouch this year. I've just said what I think your greatest sporting achievement on the football field is. Brownlow medal, two-time best and fairest winner, multiple goal-kicking leader, I believe, hopefully. Captain of West Coast's first side. You've done lots of the great things on the football field, but I want to know your greatest sporting achievement not on the football field. We do this with all of our guests. We ask them, what can you do?
Without any warning?
No warning. What can you do that's not footy? I mean, we're about to talk about footy. We know you're a good footballer. I'll give you mine while you're thinking of it. You've got a big long list. I was a state champion beach flagger in under nines. Won at Lawn. I was the tallest, but I was the scrappiest.
Yeah.
So just in and under, got the hose, state champion.
You're the baton hunter.
Yeah, I was. I was. What can you do?
Shoot. No, I can't shoot. Look, my memory does. It's a very good question, and it goes to December '86 into January 86. It was actually 85. No, 86. I beg your pardon. So I'm in Melbourne.
I was going to say, it was about the time you got to North Melbourne.
Yeah. So North said, no, not 86. What am I saying? 76, Scully. Okay. 86, 76. 76 in Melbourne, ready to be cleared to North Melbourne. And where I was staying was just in North Melbourne itself. And I met a couple of guys who play cricket. And they said, what are you doing over the summer? Would you play a bit of cricket? And I said, I'm there by myself, not doing much. So did a bit of pre-season training with old Essendon grammarians. So played in some of the local grounds, not VFL grounds, but I did have I did open the bowling.
Can I ask what you were? You're a bowler.
Yeah, not very good. And then was first drop in batting. We played Werribee, down in Werribee, and the ground was a lovely ground, mostly, quite undulating. And Scully, I got to about 74. And I thought I was going okay. I don't think I've ever scored more than 40 in cricket. So I got to 74 and got a bit of a fat head. Went for the charge down the pitch, missed it completely, bounced 4 times, hit the stumps.
John Howard was bowling at the other
Threw
end.
him a bat, a little bit angry.
At who?
No, just generally threw him a bat. I would have gone in the locker room if there weren't any lockers, would have slammed things.
74. I mean, 74 stumped is not too bad. That's pretty good.
Yeah, well, yeah. I did cop a few little comments from the lads after because they were prone to a couple of a couple of shelters. I know they were around.
Well done.
Sorry.
Jeez, you're well researched.
They were in their formative years. So that's probably it comes quite cleanly now.
You must have been a sportsman, mate, because you played. We'll get into your footy career in a little bit, but like you played forward and back, centre half forward, centre half back, which I think, I'm a little bit leaning towards backman, of course, BackChat. But to be able to do both by then, very different roles, bowling and batting, like Not everyone can do that.
Well, it wasn't overly proficient. I've only plucked out one where I don't know. It was a short boundary. I remember that. There was a couple of sixes which were probably only little scoops. And bowling I wasn't all that coordinated, but I could at least keep it on the pitch. And I quite enjoyed that.
So did you play a lot of sport growing up? Like you grew up here in Western Australia?
Yeah, I grew up in Western Australia. We played footy from a young age. Winter was footy, cricket summer. Did a few tennis lessons, did mind playing tennis, but the time really was spent in summer playing more cricket than tennis. Tennis, invariably, then was still a summer sports guy. There wasn't many indoor courts when I was growing up in the early 60s. So playing outside, if it was a bit daggy, we're pretty blessed in Perth where a lot of the tennis clubs had magnificent courts and facilities. So, look, we were sporty.
Your old man was East
Dad
Perth.
played,
Gus?
Yeah, Gus, yeah.
East Perth.
Back pocket player.
Was he? I was going to say, was he
yeah.
back and forward?
Had a couple of runs in the guts, but I think he hogged it a bit, so he got shuffled back.
Hogged it, man.
I just wouldn't give it off.
Selfish.
Yeah, selfish, yeah.
Not selfish. Every good
He can't hear, so
every good midfielder's got a bit of selfishness in them.
Yeah, well, they can't handball. They're inefficient. So it's not, team doesn't normally come into their sphere. So, no, he played okay, but he was sporty, came from Armidale, so they were very outdoors at those stages because there was no TV and, that you just made fun. So playing in the street, playing cricket in the street, kicking the footy in the street, stubbing toes, all those old, very true, dustbins for wickets.
Did you used to be around the East Perth lads? Like if Dad was playing,
fortunately, yeah. Well, we were not playing so much, mate. He finished and he went into umpiring because he had a couple of knees, so couldn't keep playing. So he went into an umpiring role and was pretty reasonable at it, and that's what he would tell me to say. In fact, you've understated it, son. He was actually very good. Umpired a couple of state games going. And but then taught me a lot of the rules of the game, kicked in the backyard, taught me how to kick properly. So those formative years were, they were great. I mean, he was a pain in the backside, not very good at giving compliments, but if he didn't say anything post the game, if I can just reach in that little bucket, you knew you'd gone okay. But there were very rarely many silent trips home after the game.
You had a big torp on you, watching some vision of you. And if you want to do yourself a favour, we're just seeing one of the great, I think, modern day defenders retire, Jeremy McGovern. And I was watching his highlights, and incredible, which you'd agree. But I was watching your highlights. Tell you what, Roscoe, pretty good. You had a torp on you. And I saw somewhere that your old man taught you to torp. Is that right or not?
Yeah. Well, you're allowed to in those days.
Yeah.
And drop kicks. So if I played, when I played younger, drop kicks, no drop punt. No, you're doing a drop kick.
Why?
So, that was the style of kick that...
Was it straighter?
Straighter, lower trajectory, and if you nailed it, it went very quickly.
And if you didn't?
If you didn't, you looked like a goose. So there was a fair bit of goose happening.
Can't imagine too many drop kicks getting pulled off in the VFL in sluggy, muddy weather.
Yeah, well, you're right. It did morph more into a flat punt. So if you couldn't do a drop kick, it was just a get it on your boot, and the punt kick, the ball held not like a tour, but just like a flat one, which Peter McKenna used to hold it pretty straight when he was so very accurate in his games at Collingwood. But a drop kick was very effective. The last ones, Bobby Skilton, Ian Stewart, Darryl Baldock, they were very, very good drop kicks.
Right. But you were a good torper.
I didn't mind that just for a bit of, because if you're playing fullback, which I started up mainly, kicking out from fullback was a torp, get it out as far as you can. It wasn't, any shorter kick. You just got it as close to the halfback flank towards the wing as you possibly could. So a torp gave you that capability. Yeah. So there were a number that went close to the boundary line off the side, but then a drop punt became more popular because of the accuracy.
Because I thought you may have played in the game that Blighty kicked that one after sign, but you weren't.
No, I missed him. Yeah.
But you played with him.
He, best player I've played with.
Right, Malcolm
could play. And he would say, well, I'm surprised you actually paused when you thought about it, because he rates himself very, very highly, does Malcolm Blight. Could play, and really could play, mate. He could play up and down the spine. Wasn't much he couldn't do.
Wasn't he captain coach or player coach?
And he coached. North? He finished. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. He coached 6 games and played
at North.
At North, and it wasn't quite working. I think, and he would admit this now, not at the time, that coaching players like Wayne Schimmelbusch, David Dents, Gary Dempsey, Keith Gregg, players of that ilk that he played with and was still playing with, wasn't the best trainer, pretty lazy, packet of darts a day, pretty relaxed, a few sherbets, but he found it difficult, I think, to actually ask those that to do things that he never really did when he was training, and he's probably his expectation was greater than what it should have been. So that's not being critical.
No,
but he's the last of the playing coaches.
Yeah, I saw that. I just saw how crazy that was. That was still a thing. So that was mid-70s.
Yes, yeah. So he, look, cracking fella. I had a bit of a crack then, but he's a good fella. He's a good fella.
So 75, you're still here in Western Australia. You're runner up in the Sandover, East Perth.
Yeah.
Was that as a backman?
Yes.
Or did you just used to
No. That was full back.
Right. So
Alan Quartermain won. He won with 16 votes. Stan Watney, who played at Swan Districts, came. He played centre half back, and then Peter Spencer, who I played with at East Perth. So we were 3 of us were runner up.
Yeah. So you do that, continue your career there, and when is it? 76, 77.
Moved to Melbourne.
Yep.
What's
that move like? Because it's not like now where players get drafted and they're off to Hawthorn and they've got their host family.
Yeah.
Like you're playing in the Waffle,
yes,
which is
living at home.
Effectively a VFL competitor. Like it's certainly more split than what it is now.
Yeah. If you have Waffle, take state games out. If you have Waffle playing VFL's still very strong as it is now, Sky, but Waffle was still a fairly decent standard. There are a number of players, West Australians, playing in the VFL. But to get people to go from WA to Melbourne was a big move. So pretty chuffed to be asked to go over. But then East Perth said towards the end of, or the early part, of 77, we're not going to clear you. And North said, well, you stay in Melbourne. We'll try and work through this and get you cleared sooner than for 78. So the year older, and I did everything at the club. I worked for Budget Rent-A-Car. I didn't play. I trained, but I wasn't allowed to play at any level. So I did everything bar play on the weekend.
For a year?
For the first, for 3/4 of the season.
Is that right?
And then the 2 clubs, North and East Perth, said, well, look, if you come back and play the last half a dozen games at East Perth, then we'll clear you for the 78 season.
That's bizarre.
Look, I was a bit dirty at the time, but in the end, it actually worked in my favour because East Perth said, well, you only played 48 games and, what's the exchange? What are we getting back for what we put into you? And North said, well, yeah, that's probably fair. So I sat out and it worked out okay because I got to understand. I came back and played 6 games. 77, we got beaten East Perth in a prelim final or semi-final, and North played in a grand final, drew, and then won the draw and won the replay. So, but the next year, 78, I played in a grand final for North.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say.
Very fortunate, mate. Yeah,
your
really
first year
fortunate.
at North Melbourne, you're playing a grand final. What's that like? What's your reflections on that?
Look, it was a really good team, and coming off because they'd won 75, North had won 75, played off in 76 and lost 77 draw against Collingwood, win the replay, then 77 under Barassi, 78, you're in one again. So very quickly, an unusual lead up, won the second semi, go straight into the grand final, but the prelim final week, Barassi wanted us to keep playing, not have a rest. And Sturt in Adelaide had done the same thing. So he organised with Sturt that we'd fly to Adelaide, play a game in Adelaide in the prelim final break for us as a continuation of our form. So a few of the players, it was odd. I went, oh, that's pretty cool. I ended up playing on Paul Bagshaw, who in fact just got inducted in the AFL Hall of Fame, played for Sturt. So wonderful player. So great experience. But then come grand final day, a few of the blokes were a bit weary. A couple of blokes got no excuses at all, playing Hawthorn. And a couple of memories, mate, if I can.
Please.
I was the only player because at that stage then I was working, having worked for Budget. I actually when I went back full time, I was working for a company called Simpson Australia, who are a sportswear clothing company, mainly with tennis and golf and what have you. And their office was down in Moorabbin, so I was working as a sales rep, and they always had a sales meeting on a Friday. So come grand final leave, they had the grand final parade, and I'm not allowed to go because we've got a sales meeting. And I, in all naivety, I thought, oh, well, you know, job's really important because job was first, footy was second. Yeah. So I was the only one not in the grand final parade. So there's Stownell, who I would have been sitting next to in a car by himself. And I'm the only numpty not in the grand final parade, which at the time I thought, oh, well, that's how it is. Work's important. So no one from the club really arced up.
So you're just crunching numbers at the sales meeting?
You're just saying,
doing
yeah,
some
I've
big
sold
deals
this or doing whatever.
The boys are in the grand
17 tennis
parade.
rackets, four polos and 2 pairs of shorts for the week. That's not bad. Throw in a pair of socks and off you're done. Yeah, budget. Beautiful. So then the game itself, mate, which was Mum and Dad had come over, which was lovely. So it's a cracking day. I don't know, 25 degrees. Coloured toweling hats were all the rage. So beautiful sunny day. About 104,000 people there. So we do the toss. We're playing Hawthorn. I'm playing full-back on Michael Moncrief. Alan Martello was playing centre-half forward for Hawthorn. So they bounced the ball and I'm looking up. And in those days, you had to play in front. You weren't allowed to play behind your player. So you had to stand in front, and this was all part of the Barassi thing.
That's interesting.
There was no video that was used, but it was observed those that weren't particularly backs. So be in front of your man at all time. So the ball's bounced, goes up in the air, and I lose it in all the coloured toweling hats. I'm going where it's sunny, and all of a sudden the ball hits the deck. It's kicked off the ground by El Martello. Moncrief, I was actually standing alongside him. He took 3 steps in front of me, bang on the chest. I went, oh, great. I'd only just got a fist around, missed by probably a lot. We're on the deck and I'm about to get up and I hear this squeaky voice having a real crack at me, and I look up and it's Lee Matthews, having given me a fair spray for, you know, being you, whatever, so and so. I can't repeat it. No. Well, there was a bit of effing, weak C's and, you know, cop this, you know, you so-and-so from Perth. It's pretty good. Wasn't a bad sledge. So I'm standing on the mark going, where's that hole? You know, I can see people going, oh, what a great start. I can see Barassi going, what's going on? So he kicks the goal.
Yes.
Great start to a grand final.
I saw it, mate. I've seen the vision, and I was going to ask you what Lee Matthews said. Imagine that happening 5 times in a row, because that's what happened to us in 2018. I was looking for a hole. I was looking for the
hang on. There's another one. What? Comes back out again. No. He marks. No, in a bit of a play. It marks, a bit of a shuffle in the pocket, just misses something, and there's 2. 1 goal, 1. Anyway, he kicked another couple on me, and then held him after that. But anyway, finished up playing the centre.
You did.
The runner came out at, I don't know, it was about the 10-minute mark of the last quarter. He said, go to the centre. I said, pardon? Go to the centre, have a run and see if you can do something. Right. So I get in there, and Big Mick Nolan, the galloping gasometer, was the ruckman. He goes, what the fuck are you doing here? I'm sorry, Mick, I just got told to come into the centre. He goes, righto, do you know what to do? I said, well, where do you want me? He said, I just see his face.
Get the ball.
It was funny because he almost looked up Brassy and go, what are you doing? Anyway.
Bit of backman in the midfield. You would have just been thinking it's not hard. Just get the ball and get it going our way.
You sort of get a bit, where do I stand? And, okay, we'll watch this and do that anyway. It was good fun.
So both sides scored over 100 in that one, didn't they?
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
So it's a high score. I did want to ask you about backman craft. And considering you mentioned playing in front, like I always thought that was a new thing over the last probably, 10 years. Like even when I was playing, like it was like I just used to pretty much lock in back shoulder. If I ever got in front, it was like
marginally
back, like front shoulder with touch.
Yeah.
I never, like Garv and TV, these blokes I played with, played 10 metres off their men. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But I just hearing you then talk about playing in front, that's interesting.
You weren't allowed to be too far away. If you're an arm's length, that was acceptable. But you could drift off a bit depending on which side of the ground the ball was coming on. It depended a bit, Sky, too, on who you're playing on. If you're playing on a bigger full forward, but they're all pretty big in those days.
A lot more one-on-one.
A lot more one-on-one, yeah. There wasn't the same amount of scrimmaging and what have you. So it was very much a 6 and 6 and 6, not structured that way because there's no 50-metre arc, there's no centre square. It was still just the circle. So it was. I mean, if you had the initiative to drop off your bloke and get the ball, well, that's accepted. But if you're mucked up, well.
And your game was graded. You were playing on, I don't know who's some of the great opponents you played on, but.
Oh, look, if I'm playing on a Terry Danaher.
So you played on Terry Danaher and Terry Danaher kicks 8 goals. Well, that's just a terrible game by you.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's
you may get moved or taken off. But invariably, if you were of our size, you're a tad taller than me. But I was only 6. Well, I was only 6'1.5". So if you got a tall like a Kelvin Templeton or whoever it may have been, you just had to play. Because put it this way, Scott, if you're playing centre half back or full back, you've played on a very good player. So the ball was invariably going to come through you a lot, particularly centre half forward, because they did play through the guts a lot.
Yes.
It wasn't sprayed wide, or that sort of tactical play wasn't in vogue. It was play through your good players, and the fellas on the outside generally just did the harder running. So playing a key post, if you're at centre half forward, you'd be playing a very good player at centre half back. So it was good playing in those key positions, mate, because you're in the game a bit.
So 78's your first year with North Melbourne. You don't play in another grand final. Do you look back at that as failure, success, a moment? How do you reflect on it with losing it and not having another opportunity to win one?
Oh, losing it still sits a little bit because of the opening piece, but I mean it's what happened. It was a great learning curve. Excuse me. Very respectful of the opportunity to have to play in one, because as we both know, there's a lot that don't get to play in finals to start with, and then to make it to a grand final is quite unique. So, look, I'm rapt I played in one, and I was in Melbourne last week, mate, actually, and caught up with a couple of North boys, Wayne Schimmelbush and Roy Ramsey, a couple of good mates, and we never talk about it. It was great to be at the club. So from there on in, I don't know, it's probably 83. We were the best team in the competition. We got done in the preliminary final, and that was the weekend prior to the Brownlow. So went to the Brownlow. Really disappointed, but probably more just slightly under the weather because we'd had Mad Monday.
I was wondering how that would sort of play into each other, sort of going.
I actually didn't bring it up for that reason, but that's.
Well, before we get there, though, okay. I will come back on that. You were runner-up in the Brownlow in 82. You lost by 2 votes, I think.
No, I think, Brian Wilson won quite comfortably. He won by about 5 votes. Sorry, 18.
You got 18.
And he had 23.
You polled
so
in
5.
6 games, and you were 3 votes every time. So you
what?
either got 3 or nothing. You got the best on, or you did fuck all.
So I haven't even look. That sits again being very fortunate to be runner up, but it was one of those years where I don't know. It was strange, mate, but went okay in the club best and fairest, so that probably meant a bit more.
Yes. So you won the best and fairest 82, 83, and you were runner up in the Brownlow 82, and then you won 83 in the Brownlow. So let's go to 83. You lose the prelim, which is disappointing. Yeah. But I've lost one prelim. Usually it's probably like losing a prelim is probably almost worse than losing a grand final.
Well, I reckon you're right, particularly if you finish on top and you finish on top with a very good team and have some very good wins against the teams that are sitting below you. Excuse me. So from that point of view, it just sits pretty heavily on my shoulder because I could have done something about that, not just me, but I could have been better, in the prelim final, much better. So it's just, look, it is what it is. Yeah. But it doesn't. I don't lose sleep over it. No. But if it comes up, I remember.
You feel like you almost feel like you didn't get the grand final's the one. It's like, well, if you lose that, you're like, well, not sure how much more we could have done, but. Prelim's a bit more what if, I don't know. Yeah,
but also if you were rated as the best team, not comfortably, but by most that knew the game.
Fair.
So
So you lose that then, and I can only assume that Mad Monday is a mild affair on Monday.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. We never got dressed up or anything like that, but you did just gather, and everyone was still working, Scully, so it was trying to take Monday afternoon off.
You had another sales meeting?
Yeah, I had another sales meeting, but I cancelled that one. Hadn't sold anything for the previous couple of weeks, so I'm out. It's very good. So Mad Monday really started about midday. A couple of boys had an interest in a pub or two, so we'd go there. But it was only probably 20 players early, and then by mid-afternoon where blokes could get away, some of the tradies could get off work. And so you'd have probably 30 to 35.
Yeah.
And we finished up at a pub called the Homebush Hotel, which is on Arden Street, which Gary Dempsey owned. Well, say owned. It sounded a bit like Peter Wilson owning a pub. You had 5% of 2%, so it's not a lot, is it? Pete, how are you? But it's I don't know, 4:30, no mobile phones.
This is 83. Yeah.
So this is 83, thank you. So Monday, so it's about 4:30, and somehow Kerry, my wife, and we live at West Meadows at this stage, so we're up near Tullamarine, up the freeway. So she gets hold of the pub, and I don't know, the manager says, "Oh, look, this. Where the fuck are you? Like, we've got the Brownlow. What are you doing?" I went, "Oh, yeah." I had a moment of
what
fade.
Were you doing?
Well, I was probably getting told to buy another round. Played so poorly. Anyway, so I get in a cab, get home, get to the Brownlow. By this stage, I'm reasonably conditioned.
Couple of shelters.
Yeah, but I've recovered okay. And then sitting at the table, and the votes are going on, and those days, Scully, the players would be drinking, and a few blokes, and I'd say this just because this is how it was, blokes having a cigarette on the tables, and coaches and what have you, and Ron Joseph at the time, who was our general manager, well, he smoked 40 a day. Like, he's eating his fingers, trying to suck as much out of each one as possible, and I'm sitting there, I hadn't had a drink. I just thought I'd better be careful there. As the votes started coming out, I thought, geez, because I think I was in about 4 or 5 that were, a chance. Terry Wallace, Simon Madden, Morris Rioli had good years, Terry Danaher. So, halfway through the count, Joseph's going, "Mate, you might be a chance here." I go, "Oh, shut up." Anyway, so it comes to the last set of votes, and I'm ahead by 1, and Morris Rioli's a couple behind. Simon Madden's on one end of Simon Madden, and Morris Rioli's a couple behind. So the last game, and it's not constructed at all for humour, but Jack Hamilton was the CEO at the time. So the last game is Richmond versus Collingwood. They go through the first vote, second vote. 3 votes, Richmond, M. Pickering. So it wasn't M. Rioli. Well, Morris was shattered. Anyway, so I've won. And Michael Pickering, I remember seeing him a couple of years later, he said, yeah, he said, "I played really well that day." So I went, okay, cool. But Morris wasn't happy, and his wife wasn't happy. I remember seeing her, I don't know, about 12 months later, and she said, "You were lucky to win that, Morris should have got the votes in that last game." So anyway, you win.
Which may be true.
Oh, look, that's
You're going to have a fair
fine.
bit of luck, I assume, in some of this stuff.
But he could play.
But so could you. You win a Brownlow. As again, I'd like to highlight the last key position backman to do it.
Well, I must say then that then required, having sobered up a fair bit, a little bit of celebration. So,
had you written a speech?
No. Peter Landy was remember him as a caller, Peter Landy?
Yeah.
He was the MC for the night, and he's mad Hawthorn. So his first question or two was pretty. How did he phrase it? That you probably would have wanted to play better, and be in the grand final this weekend, Ross, wouldn't you? That sort of stuff. And I'm going, and I just went, "No, cool. That's fair enough." I did want to actually do something, but I couldn't. Anyway, so you make your speech. Well, there were a couple of questions. Then you just say a few words. So then you sit back down, and no mobile phones, but the message came through. A few of the lads from the Mad Monday have come into the Southern Cross, where the thing was, this could be interesting. So they're in shorts, and they just stormed the building. So in the end, it's about 12 o'clock, and Ted Whitten had a tradition, which I wasn't aware of, that he would take the winner and his entourage, as in anyone he may have known, into a room set aside at the Southern Cross, and you're on it. So my mum's over, she's babysitting our daughter, our oldest daughter. Sheree at the time was about 2, and she wanted to come in, but she couldn't. So we thought, we'll be home soon. Well, we get home at like 4 in the morning, and then there's this on the front door at about 7 o'clock, and I get up and seriously, I looked, it was terrible. And it was Bill Cannon, who was the lead writer for the Herald Sun. He said, mate, can we just do a quick interview? I'm like, well, how do you say no? So at this stage, Shrey, our daughter, I've got her in the baby seat, and I'm trying to feed her some food, like wet Wheat Bix, and I'm trying to do it properly, and I'm hitting her nose, and I'm putting it in her ear. I still wasn't sober. No, thank you. And I had to go to Carbine Club lunch that day, which was traditional for the Brownlow medalists, and then go to the Carbine Club lunch on the Tuesday. So
I want to know about this room with
Ted Whitten.
Yeah, who else is in there?
What's Well, people just walked in. It wasn't. So there were teammates, the officials, and others from the club.
This was tradition.
Tradition, yeah.
Oh, that's you might not think that's cool, mate, but people haven't won a Brownlow like that's pretty cool.
It actually is pretty cool.
Does it still happen?
Yeah, I don't. Yes, there is a room that the clubs that have a possible winner are able to say, look, can we go in there? And then everything's just put on. Okay. I mean, at this stage there were things put on, but it wasn't, I think, the bash that, you had to buy a few. Pull out a bit of cash, Scully.
It's still bloody
couple
good.
Of crayfish. No, look, it was good. Anyway, I've prattled on a bit there.
That's right. How does it sit with you now? Like that winning a Brownlow, very different at the time.
Yeah.
You were disappointed about the prelim, and all, you got a baby daughter. Like, what about now? You sit here today. Like, what do you think about winning a Brownlow?
Well, I wouldn't give it back, but to contradict that, I would trade it for a premiership medal. I really would, because you can't share a Brownlow with your 35, 40 teammates, because in those days there was 50 in a squad, 55. So, and you really can't, and they're a fair part of the reason why you get there, to help you play well. But my fault that we didn't go further in a grand final or get into another grand final. So I hold it pretty dear to my heart, mate. Yeah, I mean, I'm not giving it back.
No, it's hard to.
I'm not going to sell it. No, I'm not going to sell it. No, look, it is.
It's well spoken,
it's treasured. It's treasured, mate. It really is, because it's you can hang your head on that a bit. And there's only one every year, so I've still got it, mate.
Good. You said you were going to bring it. No, you didn't actually. Ron Barassi was one of your coaches. You were coached by a few good coaches, but I mean, that stands out as, I think, he's close to the best ever. People speaking about him coaching. What was he like as a coach?
It was pretty brutal on anyone who, and I am happy to say this, anyone who had a bit of skill and could play okay, particularly if you didn't perform, and particularly if he thought that skill was just gifted. Can I say, he did say to me, he said, well, it was only through the eye of your father's penis that you actually had any skill level in this game. I mean, that's pretty good, Ron, and that's probably fair, but unusual analogy, but that's true. And I didn't know how to answer that. And I thought, how do I answer that?
How did you answer it? Thank you, Ron.
I think I was just aghast. I thought my mouth might have been open a little.
I have heard you say you never used to say no.
Don't ever answer back. No, don't answer back.
Did you learn that, or did you just?
Early doors in that 77 period when I wasn't playing and I was doing things, you could tell. And I did get a chance to sit in. Sorry, I was invited to sit in the coach's box once, and brutal. Yeah, brutal. You I know things still are said these days, but some of the stuff that is said, it's not good, because it's not instructive, Scully. It's just, it's not abuse, but it's pretty close.
Mate,
if you were a lawyer, there'd be litigation everywhere.
I sat in the coach's box once under Woosha, so I was travelling emergency, and he said, why don't you come up? Why don't you come up to the box to see if you learned something? And I thought, great, yeah. Mate, like a couple of players, we lost that day and lost badly. A couple of players, like, it felt like they had their careers finished in the box. Like the things that were being said about them. And I just, for a while there, I didn't recover from it. I was like, imagine what they're fucking saying about me. I'm currently not even in the team. So it is brutal.
Yeah, it's good of you to say that it's a great experience because you realise the intensity and what it means to the coaches, and because they can't do anything physically to help. They think they've done all the training, the players have trained well, and the group's understood what the team method is. But if it's not working, it's bloody difficult in 3 breaks, quarter, half, and 3/4 time to change it. So you rely on your players.
Yeah. Yeah, don't worry, I never went back there. It sounds like you didn't either.
No.
Did you coach?
Look, I never, not once ago did I ever think, oh, gee, I'd love to coach. And I have to say, the bloke I mentioned before, Ron Joseph, did say towards the end of my playing career at North, he said, look, I don't know if you're interested in coaching, but unless you are 100% desperate to do it, don't do it. Because irrespective of what level you may do it, it still requires the same amount of commitment and the same amount of intent and desire to do it. You can't just do it because someone thinks you'll be good at it, or because I might just have a crack at that. You've got to be prepared, and you've got to know what you're doing, Sco. You've got to be able to explain the game to people who don't necessarily understand it as you may. And so I think it's fair also that a number of sporting people across different sports who are at the top level don't necessarily make good coaches because they can't tell you why you hit that ball out of the bunker in that certain way and you landed it, you hold it or whatever you did, or a basketball or shooting from this, or a Bryce Cotton. Does he become a great coach? Does he have an ability to actually cut the game down how he plays it and explain that to someone who he thinks can play as well as him but doesn't quite have the ability but could train it?
So did you feel like that about yourself? Like, do you feel like that necessarily you couldn't coach what you used to do, or you couldn't uphold standards, or you just like you didn't think it was for you?
Well, I find it difficult to uphold a sentence. So, I seriously say that because it made me think, no, look, I really don't want to because I don't think I'd have the patience, and I don't think I really could. Maybe a bit of individual one-on-one coaching, away from a club or what have you, maybe some youngsters. But even then, you've got to be able to teach the kids the right thing early, because it's, it's like, mate, it's hard to make someone skillful, once they get to a senior level. You can make them a better athlete, you can get them fitter, but how do you teach them how to read the game? Which you think about it, you mentioned Jerry McGovern early. Yeah. Without Shannon Hearn alongside him, early doors, there was a bit of a learning process because Shannon Hearn could demonstrate or be able to explain to Gov, for instance, where to go, why you're going there. And it was in game, wasn't it, sometimes, particularly early doors. Hey, back here. Hey, over there. Gov might have seen it, but, get attracted to the footy. So it's hard to teach, mate.
Yep.
So, no, I didn't. I only did 2 State of Origin games, which were more just for WA, but that was more managing people. You weren't coaching.
So you're a bit of a, not token, but like you're sort of a figurehead.
You're just gathering the group together.
Yeah.
You say a few words pre-game, you had one training session, and then whatever you said at quarter, half, and 3/4 time. I mean, the blokes weren't really listening. They just wanted to play. Most of them just said, like Nicky Wimmer said, mate, just put me in the centre. I'll win the game. I said, mate, you're going to go into the centre, but you've got to start at half forward and then move into the centre. No, sorry, correct. Those sorts of things. Scotty Cummings wouldn't listen, still kicked 8. Yeah,
and he'd tell you about it as well. He'd count every one of them. Let's talk about your time back in the West.
Yeah.
So 1987, you returned to Western Australia, maybe 86?
Yeah, late 86, yes. Yeah.
And it sounds like the timing was right from a playing point of view. You'd finished at North Melbourne. You didn't cut that short. It sounded like you were done there.
Yeah, look, Kerry, my wife, she said we probably could have discussed that a bit more, but I generally, in the right way.
You're just sounding like every husband and wife ever. We probably could have discussed that decision a bit more, Ross.
Well, we had 2 girls at that stage, born in Essendon Hospital. Kerry was pregnant with our 3rd. and I'd had the 86 season at North. I just felt really flat. No one's fault. It was just something, and gee, I wouldn't mind going back to Perth and playing with East Perth. And that was absolutely right. But in the midst of all this, the licence for the club here, evolved, a couple of conversations, and got asked, would you like to come back and be the captain? And I thought, well, how lucky am I? It's just seriously, Sco, very fortunate. I'm also disappointed I didn't get a chance to play a year or two with East Perth. Having said that, I did play one game in a pre-season comp with East Perth. Jerry McNeil was coach. Kevin Bryant, my great mate, they were both great mates, was the runner. Playing West Perth at the Wacker, and I'm playing Centre 4. Do you think I can get a kick, Scully? Do you think I can actually get a kick?
Is this where is this?
This is we're still doing pre-season training at West Coast, so This is early '87. I'm going, you idiot, And this bloke,
someone would have been.
I do apologise to the young fellow I played on, but I'm going, what is going on? And Kev kept coming out and saying, mate, what are you doing? Stop running so early. I said, well, kick it. Anyway. So I had to apologise for not getting a touch.
Well, it sounds like you need to apologise to East Perth.
Well, I have. Yeah.
1987, you become the captain of West Coast, though, first ever captain. I mean, that's obviously a leadership position, but we've just spoken a lot about individual accolades like the Brownlow Medal and different things, but captaincy, although individual, is like very much a team thing.
Look, and it was, you might have been the one that was chosen as captain, but you had players that coming back from Melbourne, Scully, that played either at Richmond in John O'Neill. Steve Malax had experience at Hawthorn, played state footy. Phil Narkle at St Kilda, fantastic player. Jeff Miles, having played in Melbourne. Dean Turner, who was a cracking team player, and could play centre, could nullify, could play wing, play half forward. So you have a catalyst of more senior players with a bit of AFL experience, and then the grouping of the other, 29 odd out of the 35 that from experience to, a Chris Lewis or a Chris Mainwaring or Andrew McNish, who were just babies.
What's the early days like at the club?
Bloody exciting.
Was it?
Oh, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And that's where, can I say, no one's fault at North Melbourne, but the fun had started to go out of things a bit because you're not playing well. No one else's fault, my fault. But I just thought, and the weather was starting to get pretty heavy. And I thought, going back to Perth for our family as well, to have our third child in Perth, and, Perth is where we wanted to come back to at some stage. I only ever signed a 3-year deal with North to start with. So we're there nearly 10.
Yes. So
coming back, look, fortuitous. You're right. And I still owe East Perth a game, that's for sure. So from that pre-season.
What memories do you have of early days West Coast, though? So facilities, like my memories of, Victorian that, doesn't know anything about it. The canary yellow sort of strip.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. And the shorts were still tight, Scully. With none of this, Eddie Betts, bordering on the new shorts. Basketball type short, the flowing short where the jumper's tighter but the shorts are big.
Borderline circulation stoppers.
Well,
used to wear, Ross.
This is a true story. My dad did say to me, he said, I know why you had three daughters, son. I said, what's that, Dad? He said, your freaking shorts were too tight. I mean, good on you, Dad. That's a Ron Barassi comment. Thank you. Anyway, still love him. So... Look, training facilities, mate, were random. Whilst we were playing home ground at Subi, we couldn't train on Subi, so you're training mainly at Mount Lawdy Teachers College, which was a good facility, but you really didn't have a change room. So Hank Glody and Billy Sutherland, head property man, Billy Sutherland. Yeah, you see it. So he had his van, so you'd get trained there or get a jumper. There were some toilets. So you'd turn up, and a lot of the blokes were either working or at uni. So you'd turn up, get changed in your car, Ronald Alexander, the coach. You'd do a normal training session, so the ground was fine. It's just then you get in your car and drive home. It was quite nomadic. But in some ways, and I reckon a lot of the younger boys would agree with this. In fact, I've heard the late Chris Mainwaring say that it was one of the, whilst it seemed odd at the time, it was a great way to actually connect blokes and get them talking and saying, well, where do you live? Can I come and pick you up? Could you, carpool and those sorts of things? So in very small ways, it was a connector.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask about that because football clubs, East Perth, you speak about North Melbourne, like they've been going on for
eternity.
50 years, 60, 100 years, whatever they are. This is different though.
Yeah.
Like you blokes are just getting together.
2 weeks in.
Right. So I'd imagine there'd have to be a huge connection piece. Yes, football. Yes, game style.
Yeah.
Yes, coach. But you're learning about each other. Where the other clubs, you go into North Melbourne, like they all know each other, and it's just roster to know each other. So
there's the routine.
Challenge?
Yeah, very much so. And even though everyone had played at Subiaco Oval, your home ground, it was still not as home groundy as you would feel playing on a Bassanine if you're Swan Districts or whatever it might be. So you're right, mate. And then not having your own locker. I mean, that happened once the games came, but it was different. It was unique. Training at Guildford Grammar, Guildford Grammar, particularly on the bottom ovals because they were towards the river, so they're quite swampy. So to try and sort of simulate playing on a Moorabbin or the grounds before they were all taken up because of the clay soil, as you know, mate. The cricket wickets in the middle, they were pretty soft. Yeah. McGilvray Oval, training there, a bit of pre-season. You're close to the ocean and there was always a breeze. So it was difficult training for skills, but it also taught some of the blokes how to kick with a strong breeze or against the breeze. So there was a bit of a good thing with that. But it was, I think you'd have to say, of the boys that were there, the boys, in the first 2 or 3 years, it was still pretty exciting, mate. Mm. Because there was there was an expectation, but there's no history. So you were forming the expectation of how you played and performed and starting to build something.
So how much was there on performance? Like, do you remember your first win? Was it, well, first year, are you playing to win?
Yeah,
I know you're playing to win. I know what sport's about. That's all I live for, and probably you as well. But given the circumstance, are you thinking, we're a chance here, or was it like some of these clubs now?
Yeah,
they wouldn't.
I'm serious. That's a very good question, mate. Because my most vivid memory of pre-season was the last game before our very first fixtured game, which was against Richmond at Subi. Was against Essendon, who had been, a really strong team the preceding couple of years. And we actually played really well and beat them. I know it was a pre-season game, but it was 2 weeks prior to the first game in 87. So I thought, these boys are going to be okay because some of them could play really well. And you could just sense that they weren't just filling a gap. And you also knew, Scully, that in a year or 2 or 3, there were a few list changes. There was strength in the waffle for another 1 or 2 once the rules were sort of modified and you can only choose from so many waffle clubs. Mm. So all those things started to, it was exciting. Good crowd in the first game, which you never know how many you're going to expect. So who is this team? What sort of support are you going to get? State of Origin was always well attended on a Tuesday, but this was quite unique. So yes, performance, win-loss wasn't ever spoken about, but I thought after the Essendon pre-season game, running out to play Richmond in the very first game, I thought we'll be okay. That there's some credibility with how we can play, and I saw some good signs.
Rumours are that State of Origin is on its way back, in fact, to Perth, Western Australia v Victoria, February 2026. You played in a couple of State of Origins. You coached State of Origin. How do you feel about it coming back? And then we'll go back on how you feel about State of Origin.
I'm not sure, Scully, in terms of it coming back.
Yeah.
In fact, a great mate of mine, Robbie Wiley's in the paper today. I still get the paper, you know that, don't you? I go out in the morning and pick it up off the driveway.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah. It's something one of those old school things because I have trouble reading my phone. I'm not
if you want me to upgrade, like put some bigger text on your phone.
Would that help? Mate, it's large. It's large. So rest assured it's large.
Need some glasses, Ross.
No, that's enough. I need glasses. Thank you. Magnifying. So Robbie Wiley thinks it's great. I love his passion for it, and his experience is very similar to mine with State of Origin. We experienced the best era of footy. with the state of origin as it was from 77, the first one, through to 86, 87, 88, Bicentenary Carnival 88 in Adelaide. So it's not lost go, but the hardest thing is if you can't get the best players to play across all the states, you're not going to draw the crowd. And then when are you playing it? When is there room in the schedule now where you know more and better than most that, and some of the arguments are, again, rugby league play 3 games in a season, state of origin, and their players come off sometimes a Sunday, play Wednesday, and sometimes play Friday, play Saturday. I understand that. We are very protective of our players now, and unless the players put their hand up to play, I just don't think it's going to happen.
So what made it good? When you talk about the golden eras of state of origin, why was it good? Because I don't remember it being good, because I was
you're way too young. Yeah.
So what made it good when it was like, I've seen crowds that you've played in front of. Why was it just like, why was it?
Because the players wanted to play, and the West Australians, the expats in Melbourne, mate, particularly, they wanted to come back home and play. And at one stage, you could only pick one from each VFL team at the time. So, for instance, I'm at North. You've got Jim and Phil Cracker, Phil Kelly, Steve McCann, but only one could be chosen. And then, so Robert Wiley, Maurice Rioli, there was just, we'd play on a Saturday, get in the plane Saturday night, get here Saturday night, train a little bit on Sunday.
Couple of sherbets or no?
Yes. Yes. And that was part of recovery.
Yeah,
that's your connection recovery. Flying is the best time to consume alcohol, Scully, isn't it?
Yes.
And recover from, you're bleeding through a corky. Don't put ice on your leg, put it in another drink. Perfect, I would have thought. Because you're actually trying to cease the bleeding internally by having the ice.
Instead of going recovery like you've gone down that road for some reason, I go to connection piece.
Okay, yes, yeah.
It's a connection.
It's a connection piece, and it's also cathartic because you're relaxing post the intensity of the game that afternoon.
It sounds like that there was genuine rivalry though.
Oh,
Western
definitely.
Australia and
there was.
Bigs,
well said. That is a very big part of it, because while we were still intruders into the VFL game, we were seen as, mate, you're very lucky to come into our game. Yeah. Oh, is that right? We played over here in Perth, and we go okay. So a little bit of that, but do you know what, Sco? It's actually sometimes easier to play in a game like that than it is to play in other games, because you can read the game better, because you can rely on the quality of the players, that they're going to kick the ball there, it's going to go there. He's a great kick. He kicks left foot all the time. I mean, I know there's a lot of that now, but in those days, and if you didn't play on a dud player, that's the thing. Everyone was a very good player. So the contest was on all the time. Yeah. So it was really enjoyable.
I think they need the rivalry back somehow, and I don't think you can manipulate that either. So I don't
Thank you, mate. You can't. No fabrication in that. It's got to be, using this word, I'm going to use it. It's got to be organic from players. If they don't want to play, just say it. Don't bulldust.
Why did it go?
A lot of the coaches and those at the time didn't want to risk their better players in another game in a tough season. Right. Particularly the players who were better players playing in the better sides, they were more important, if you like, to that club, because they were the players who were going to get their club, whether it be a Richmond or whoever it might be, into finals and stay and play well in finals. So any sort of something that happens during a season that we could have actually prevented. So don't do the extra training sessions. Give them a break when they need a break. Don't go and play another game at a decent intensity, and travel.
Yeah, and that's what ruined it.
Does that give it a...
That's why they're trying to put it at each end of the ground.
But the other thing I might want to say too, mate, just final one is that a lot of the coaches haven't played State of Origin.
Yes.
And a number of the people, not their fault, a number of the people that are making some of these, they don't quite get the intensity and the desire to play State of Origin.
Yeah, that's interesting. I want to finish on derbies, mate. So
glad you said derby, not derby, because I thought you might have thrown that out.
Calm down.
Oh, what's that all?
I am Victorian, but
Thank
I'm not
you.
an idiot.
Did I say idiot?
Your inference was clear. Now, I'll go back a little bit. 2005. What participation did you have in that was the inaugural derby overseas? Did you have any? I know you didn't play 2005, but did you have anything to do with the club West Coast at that time?
Derby overseas?
Yeah, in London. I thought you might have been around the club.
No.
Okay, I thought you might have been in the coach's box.
No,
when Woosha was
that was going to be some hell of a question, wasn't it?
No,
Sorry.
That's fine. Oh. That's good. Because Derby's...
Apologies, mate. No.
Well, I mean, Derby's come up because, like, Glendinning Medal, now the Glendinning Allen Medal, it's been synonymous with Derbies forever. How do Derbies sit for you?
Not forever. No. Hasn't been forever. But
no, but it will be.
Sorry, mate. Thank you. Yeah, no. I wasn't having a snip at you. But it hasn't been. Yeah,
I'd like to be
right. Well, there weren't derbies in the early part, but that's okay. It would have been great. But it's. I think they're fantastic. It is irrespective of how either team is playing, Scully, it still gets the interest, doesn't it?
See, I think they've lost the rivalry, just like the State of Origin, just as an
good
now.
Okay.
I think the
real guts of it and
like early days, like Freo, little brother, big brother sort of stuff. We want to beat them up, and then you think about the mid Cousins car, like there was genuine hatred. And that was because both sides were very good as well.
Yep.
People forget that.
And it was physical in the right way, mostly.
They were good. Now, the trouble is, I reckon in the last decade, one side's been terrible and one side's good. So right now, Freo's going well, West Coast no good.
Yeah.
Before that, Freo were no good and West Coast were good.
Yeah.
And so you've lost the rivalry, I think. So
that's a very good point, mate. It's difficult. And you can't dress it up any other way.
No.
Doesn't mean you're exactly right. But it still is, for a number of people, the game where they think their side could actually lift if they're the side that's the lesser side, if that makes sense, because it's a derby. Well, if they live for the derby, then the coach is always going to say, what is going on? Why is it that you played so much better in the derby and for the last 5 weeks we've been shite? What is it?
But you would look at, and you would have seen some amazing derby moments. Like, I feel like you've been in... Given the medals named after you, I mean, you would have had some great involvement in derbies, more so than most, if not anyone else in the state. So
guess what, Scully? Most of in fact, I can't, nearly all the medals that I've presented, I think Ben would be the same, midfielders.
I've voted twice, and I've voted for midfielders. So that's on me, I guess.
No. Pav got...
JK won one?
Yeah, JK, Pav, but he was sort of centre forward. Michael Gard, but he was a midfielder.
Pav won one on me.
Yeah.
So
I didn't want to bring that.
That was good.
No.
Yep. No, anyone else?
I did do it for that reason.
Michael Gardo won one. Yeah, he did.
But he was a midfielder. But he's a ruckman, but he's a midfielder.
How did he win that?
Yeah. Pardon?
How did he win that?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't mean it. As soon as that came out of my mouth,
I thought you were leading yourself into my question.
No, you idiot, Ross. Yeah, no. Let's start that. Yeah. It was.
Is there any way we can talk about that, or you don't want to talk about that?
It doesn't bother me. Have you at the
so
time?
What's happened there? What's that? Because so can I just give context to this question? Because I know some people want to turn this into something.
Because it's so long ago, Scully. That's why.
Knowing you, I don't know, we're not best mates, so I feel I know you pretty well. I look at whatever happened there, I laugh because I can just imagine you rolling out and be like, you know what? No, I think Gardner's won it, so you can go fuck yourself. I'm giving it to Gardner. That's a version I think happened.
Well,
you didn't say that.
No.
So what's happened there? What's happened?
No, nothing. So Graham Wood was the CB state manager at the time. Graham Wood, former cricketer, and played a bit of footy with East Fremantle. So we're walking from level 2 at Subi Oval down onto the ground.
Game's over.
Pardon?
Game's over.
Game's over. Oh, no, we're about 5 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And we're just chatting about the game. We said, and I said, geez, I reckon, Gardner's had a pretty good, particularly when the game was on. And he goes, yeah, and Woody was a Collingwood, is a Collingwood supporter. He goes, yeah, look, I've always been a fan of Gardner's. Anyway, so then we thought, he's played well, da-da. Embers had done this, Samps had done this, but, just in spurts, so get down there and the votes are coming through. I think there's about 5 people that have voted, like everyone but the umpires. And
that's the Brownlow Midfielders Award.
Yeah. So we're getting on the ground and the votes are given in, and I was one of those to vote. whereas post that I haven't voted since, which is great. So I just go, so they don't read out the votes as they do now. They didn't. It was just Mike's given to me. You announced the winner, and so I go and Michael Gardner. Well, no, there was a bit of this, what have you. Well, as soon as the formalities finished, there's phones ringing. It's the people, John McGrath up in the box, those that have voted saying, what the fuck, Dennis Committee's ringing me saying, mate, I think you've created a bit of havoc here. I said, well, I didn't do it on purpose, but yeah, it wasn't, anyway. So that was just my sense of it. So I didn't do it to be, a smart ass or, stand above anyone, but I just thought he was the best player. So the system's changed a lot, Scully, since then.
I will tell you, you asked if I was nervous coming into this. Giving votes for the Glendinning Medal is the worst job in the world, mate. I hate doing it.
Yeah.
I only do it if I have to.
Because I never saw any stats. Because sometimes very well, you could have 3 players and you just want to give them 1 vote. They weren't good enough for 2 and you go, how do I pick? And it does get difficult. So it's an opinion.
Oh, good. Samson's got his medal, by the way. So it was.
I know. I was there.
Good.
I gave it to him.
Good. Well done. Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Ross. Doing your bloody job. Mate, it's been
Emma still rings me and says, where's mine? Sorry, big fella.
Emma's wants a 3rd one on the day. God, the Sam said Emily. Mate, it's been brilliant chatting to you. Like, really, really great. Awesome about the North Melbourne days, West Coast. I'm not done yet, though. So we do put it to the people, and the people get to ask.
I put the queue in the rack, man. I was about to get up and leave.
I've got 4 or 5 questions from social media. That's right, not social media. You wouldn't know what either of those are, but social media.
I went to shul.
Social media is where I get the people to ask questions heard enough from me. I'll let them do their work. Ready? Happy?
Let's go.
North Melbourne Vintage. How hard did Barassi train you boys in the 70s?
To the point where the hotter it was, you weren't allowed to have water. There's no sunscreen. We always trained from about 5 o'clock post-work, and you had plumbers and electricians and tradies, brickies coming in off the tools, running 400s. You would have loved 400s. You did. 10 200s, 10 400s, no water. You're weak as water if you have water.
What used to...
Yeah, Barassi said, you're not tough. Well, how come everyone's collapsing? Ron? Anyway.
Not tough enough.
No.
That's why.
No, thank you. Yeah, so imagine that. You get sued as a coach.
Woosha once boiled our water.
Oh, did he?
And at 3/4 time of our big session, he pulled us in for like a team meeting. And he just had this smirk on his face the whole time. And he went back out.
As only he could.
Yeah, and we came back out of the room to have the waters. We were devastated. We were about to run it. Yeah, dehydrated. And we tried to drink the water, physically couldn't drink it. And he was laughing, going, oh, what's the matter? What's the matter? You can't be that thirsty.
Oh.
If you're that thirsty,
anyone
you
burn
drink
their tongue or their upper palate?
Mate, it was boiling water. Pissing himself like these coaches, mate.
Was that a night game or a day game?
No, it wasn't a game. It was
but sorry, in terms of the time of
session. About 40 degrees in January in Western Australia. So
harden up, Scully.
Yeah, it was good.
Were you wearing long sleeves at the time?
Were you a long sleeve wearer?
I did.
Oh, I like that a lot. This is from Shaz Glendo. When was the last time you cried with Wayne and Daryl Schimmelbusch about how amazing it is that all your kids are friends? Is this someone you know, is it?
Yes, it's someone I know, and thank you for that. That's my daughter. So she's a fan, Scully, so that's good.
Good.
Last weekend.
That's very good. Ronnie87 says, Ross, when you go to the cinemas, what's your favourite choc top flavour?
When I go to the cinema? What? Well, isn't there only one choc top?
I don't know. I think there's, isn't there? I don't know, Jaiden. You look like a choc top operator. Isn't there like double choc? And I don't know.
Vanilla.
Spin.
Thank you, Ron. Was that Ron?
Yeah, it was Ron.
Obviously not busy.
I'll just change this a little bit, but the Jaiden, given off the back of sort of Gov's forced retirement here. So Jaiden's around concussion issues and the AFL. And do you reflect on that at all? I have changed his question, but do you reflect on that at all from your time playing, or you look at what's happening now? The game's changed, more head knocks, less head knocks. Get on with
a
it.
Fair bit. It's such a critical part of what the AFL's going to do, and listening to the medical people. And for Gov to do what he's done, it would have been bloody hard, and you know him so very well. But it's a game changer, I think, for someone of his ilk to accept that that's what it is for the right reasons. Hopefully that steers things in the right way for coaches and administrators across all levels of footy. AFLW, Scully. There's some hits in AFLW which just through naivety, through the inability of some players to look after themselves or understand what's coming, we can be in trouble. We've got to be very careful. We have to be very careful. Good
answer. Now, Jazz's dad asks 2 questions. Do you consider yourself a shin boner for life? And 2, what do you think of the current crop and their future?
I'll always be a shin boner because that's where we spent 10 years of our life. So whilst I'm grateful and I'm connected to West Coast, I am first up a shin boner.
Good.
Currently, the game against Carlton on the weekend was very good. Carlton I find hard to judge, Scully. I don't know. They can be, but I'm not sure they're going to be for long enough. So the younger group at West Coast, at North Melbourne, at the Kangas, I would hope where West Coast in the next 18 months have their younger group at, because they compete and they can compete for 4 quarters. They're quick, they've got skill set, they've got left footers, they've got to change a game, and Combin down back, Pink.
Oh,
how good's he?
We love Pinky, don't worry about that.
How good is he? He is just slides under the radar. And then your key forwards, and what Jack's done, Jack Darling, JD, in taking. How is that gash on his leg? Did you see? I
haven't seen it, and
it is extraordinary. Okay, softy. So they have a really good spine and some decent flankers wings. So it's an important period for the club. Yes. So West Coast have that capability. They've just got to get the young boys playing more.
Good. And Tappy95 says, how do you like your eggs, Ross?
Oh, look, I could have them anyway. In fact, last night I had an omelette.
Did you?
There you go.
Did you make it yourself?
I did.
Did you?
Boiled eggs, poached eggs, scrambled eggs.
You're an egg man.
I'm an egg man.
Very good. Well, Ross, that is the end of the interview. So, mate, brilliant chatting to you. Some good laughs. And thanks for spending the time here on BackChat.
Oh, pleasure, mate. Thank you. And no, seriously, I'm rapt to be able to come and do this.
Good man.
You can edit as much as you like.
Good man. See you, mate.
See you, mate.